Hello and welcome to TBT Talks with me, Steve Hall. We've got something a little bit different for you this week because there's been no games to review, so we've had no Liverpool games to talk about, and we're definitely not talking about international football. We've decided to have a review of the transfer window, and to do that, I've decided to invite on fans of some of the top teams in the country to discuss their team's transfer business. We've decided on five different fans. We've got Craig Austin, our regular, who's representing Liverpool. Dino Spyro is going to represent the Arsenal contingent. We've got Ben, who's going to be our Man City fan. He runs he's part of the Main Blues website. That is one of our sister sites. We've got Gaz Drinkwater. He's going to be our Man United fan. You might see Gaz occasionally if you ever watch Full Time Devils. Not that you'd probably watch Full Time Devils if you listen to this, but so be it. And we've got Chelsea fan is Declan McCarthy. Declan works with Radio Woking, so any Woking fans might recognise Dec's voice again. The crossover, if there was a Venn diagram between Woking fans and TBT listeners, I doubt there's many in the middle, but one or two of you might catch it. The plan is basically just to go through each team and talk about the transfer business, what they've done. Obviously, I can't talk about every deal. We might be there all day, especially with Dec if I talked about 23 Chelsea players going out on loan, but we'll go through what I think are the main ones. The running order, well, I decided to do it based upon the Champions League, the Premier League standings last year. So, Gaz, you might be waiting a while, mate. Luckily, we've got no Spurs or Everton fans on, or you'd be waiting a while.
Brilliant.
Chief, don't expect plenty of those, pal, I'll be honest, just to let you know. And I will start with you, mate. Man City's business was quite understated, to be honest, wasn't it? Not a lot got done. Obviously Mangala came in, Fernando came in, Willy Caballero came in, and obviously you got Sancho and Lampard in from Chelsea respectively.
Yeah.
One of those deals that stands out to you as maybe your favourite or the most important piece of business that you've done?
Well, if I'm being honest in terms of what City really needed, it's got to be Mangala because the defence has been less than impressive for like 2 years now. We need a proper defender, so Mangala's obviously that rather than what Martin Demichelis was for half of last season. In terms of favourite, I'd probably say, I'm really liking the look of Fernando. The lad we got from Porto is looking really good so far.
Sorry, mate, I'm just going to interrupt you there. I just want to talk a little bit about Willy Caballero, if I can. Do you think he's really been brought in to be an understudy, or is he there maybe to fight Joe Hart for that number one? Obviously, Joe Hart has had a few issues here and there. I mean, the goal against Stoke, for example, another mistake from him.
Yeah, he's definitely here to fight for that place because Joe. We all know about Joe Hart's mistakes, and Costa Pantamon wasn't really the right person to challenge him for that. Yeah, for that first team place, because in a short-term capacity, Pantilimon might have been all right, but not as a long-term solution. So that meant after a month of Pantilimon, we thought, right, well, he's not good enough. We had to drop him and bring back Hart in, and thankfully he performed well from sort of November last season or whenever we brought him back in, up until up until the Stoke game. Now Caballero has been brought in. He's worked with Pellegrini before. He wants to challenge. He will challenge because he's impressive at times in pre-season, especially on the American tour. And he'll definitely, if Hart does have more issues like he did in the Stoke game, Caballero will definitely get a look in over the next few weeks and months.
Absolutely. I thought it was fascinating that he's decided to get a goalkeeper in. Obviously, Liverpool didn't, and it was something that a lot of our fans wanted, and I might speak to Ozzy about that in a bit. But one player you did get in was Frank Lampard on loan, and Dec, I'm going to come to you if you don't mind, just about Frank. Obviously, you sold him to New York, and then he's obviously gone on loan to. That left a little bit of a bitter taste in your mouth, Dec.
Yeah, it was a sad day for all Chelsea fans, if I'm going to be quite honest, Steve. No one really wanted him to leave, and I speak for all Chelsea fans there. He was a very consistent player and one that will live on as a legend. But the thing that happened, and it really did come out towards the end of the season, is Lampard. There was a struggle whether he would be able to last another season, Steve. The first 17 games he was outstanding, and there was obviously another year coming on. But I think Frank felt in his heart that maybe, going to America, maybe big dollars. I don't really think Frank Lampard's like that. I don't think he's there for the money. I think he just loves playing. And of course, we've seen people like David Beckham who've hit highlights and different levels of stardom going over to America. I mean, Thierry Henry as well, doing it very well over there. I was a bit shocked that, of course, he went over to Manchester City. I don't know whether it was to do something in his contract when he first signed, and it's really the only way I can feel that he would have gone to Man City. Obviously, there's the connection between the club he's at now in America and City, but I do believe if they hadn't had that connection, I believe City wouldn't have had Frank Lampard, and he may have possibly just have rested for the winter, and that's another key point as well. The whole winter he would have kind of just been sitting around and possibly becoming the Fat Frank that some people like to call him. So I do think him training every week with City will also benefit himself. So that's why I reckon he's went. But you are right, Steve. It was a kind of a horrible feeling knowing that he, of course, was going over to the light blue of the country.
It just seems to me as an odd move, Dick, because I thought maybe he would go back on loan to Chelsea, and the fact that he did go to City was a little bit of a surprise.
I don't think actually Chelsea put in a bid, which was and I am surprised as well, Steve. I do agree with you. He was he was a key catalyst for this club for years upon years. One of the greatest goal scorers midfield wise the country's ever seen. And it was a horrible day. I'm not going to sit here and I despise the player for joining such a club. Fair play to him. I think a lot of players would love the opportunity to play for maybe possibly the two biggest countries, the clubs in the country at the moment. So yeah, I mean, there are negatives, but there are positives on his behalf, and that's where I'm coming from.
I'm just going to correct you there that the second biggest club in the country last year was Liverpool. The league table lies. Another signing, Ben, I'll come to you, was Michy Sagna, again from Arsenal. As backup right backs go, nicking one off a potential rival, it isn't a bad piece of business, really, is it?
I think backup's been a bit unfair to him, and what we did with Clichy and Kolarov last season, rotating them and keeping them fit and on their toes, that worked quite well. I think that's the role that Sagna and Zabaleta are going to play this season. I don't think Sagna's coming to sit on, especially not on 130 grand a week. He's not coming to sit on the bench and wait until there's a cup game away at MK Dons or something like that. He's definitely gonna. He'll definitely play more games than some people think he will, and he'll be a good signing. He will be a good signing because Zabaleta played pretty much every game last season, if not all of them, and it does show he does get a bit worn out. So for Sagna to come in and give him sort of the opportunity to rest some games and not have to put all the effort in every game like he does so well, I think it'll be a relief for him, and it'll help City as well this season.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. You're probably right there. And we've had a little bit of technical issues with Dino, so I'll try and go to him about this. And if it drops out, I do apologise. We'll move on. But Dino, what were your thoughts when Sagna left your club to go to City? How did that feel, especially knowing that again another Arsenal player has decided to jump ship to a Manchester club?
I think the main sort of opinion in North London after the deal was sort of anger at Sagna. He could have gone to a lot of places, possibly the likes of PSG around Europe. A lot of places would have had him, and for him to go to a team like City, who are our rivals, it is quite disappointing. But personally, although it's not the most popular opinions, I'm not too fussed because he signed a contract and he's got the right to see it out and then leave. He saw out his contract, he gave his all, he kept his level of performance at a respectable level until the last game, and I can't really complain with that. Yes, I'd rather he went somewhere else, but although we've lost a great right back, I sort of understand in a way, and Debussy will do alright now, I think.
Yeah, we'll touch upon your transfers later. I'll just come back to you, Ben. We talked about the few players who came in. I'm just going to speak to you about a few who left, if you don't mind. First, Xavi Garcia was a strange signing because he looked like a decent enough player at first, but it just never seemed to work out for him, and eventually you've let him go to Zenit. What were your thoughts on this?
Well, I don't think you can say that he was a panic buy. Well, I'll say that much because we bought him when we'd signed no one but Rodwell the entire transfer window. He didn't look great the first season we got him. He didn't look great for the first half of last season, but when Fernandinho struggled with injuries the last couple of months last year, he stepped up and started playing alongside. Yeah, he doesn't lose the ball with his by passing. Just a lack of pace. He looked a good player, and I was surprised we sold him, but I think we've got a good price for him, and with the signs of Fernando and Lampard, I don't think we could have really expected him to stay and sit and fight on the bench. I'll do, yeah, just sit on the bench and try and fight for a place which he isn't going to get. For his career, he needed to move on, and he's done that.
No, absolutely, mate. I agree with. I can understand what you're saying there. Just a final couple about City before we move on to the most exciting team in the Premier League. I'm sorry, I should keep my neutral headlines for tonight.
What, Swansea?
Yes, top of the league, Swansea. No, I meant the mighty Reds of Liverpool, not Manchester. I'll get to you in a bit, guys. You're bottom of the queue, mate. You just settle down there, and we'll come to you after we spoke to the Champions League and qualified clubs. Okay, I will come I'll speak to you about Mickey Richards and Negredo, both out on loan then. I kind of understand the Richards one. Again, you signed Sanya and you've got plenty of depth. Negredo was slightly surprised. Like, before the injury, he seemed he had a really good start and tailed off a bit, but there's talk of homesickness. But I thought that was an odd one to let him go because you didn't really replace the guy, did you?
I think the homesickness. I don't think it's him. I mean, it might have been. It was more his wife. I think that's what all the press and all like that are saying. That she was unhappy in Manchester. She wanted to go back to Spain, and maybe that helped. Well, that definitely helped his decision. I mean, because there's no use keeping a player who's probably not going to start. And Jovetic both look sharp this season. There's no use keeping him to sit on the bench when he's already unhappy, and then letting him go at next summer, age 30, for like 12, 15 million. When I think there's a compulsory option to buy him for. Well, there's a compulsory option in the Valencia loan that means they have to pay. I think it's 25 million next season. So it's a good. Well, it'd be a good deal. So I'm upset that he's gone, but I'm pleased with the deal that we've got for him. And in regards to Richards, he'll be remembered as a club legend. But his last few seasons haven't been his best, and he definitely needed to go somewhere to try and restart his career, and I think he'll do that at Fiorentina.
Absolutely, mate. I always think it's good when an English player goes abroad. You don't often see it, so hopefully for his sake it works out well for him. Like I say, he looks like a talented player. Maybe he can rekindle what he had there. Thanks, Ben. I'll come back to you later with a few more questions on City. But Oz, I'm going to come to you about the mighty Reds. Our transfer business. Obviously, we spent quite a bit of money. Obviously, we lost Luis Suarez and invested that money in a few different players. So Lallana, Markovic, Balotelli, Moreno, Chan, Lambert, Lovren, Origi we loaned out, Manquillo on loan, and a couple of other youth signings. Again, we've seen a bit of them all. The others. let's start with Balotelli because he Balotelli it came from nowhere, really, didn't it? Wasn't, and it surprised us all.
Yeah, it'd been mentioned about early on in the window, hadn't it, that we might be interested in him on loan, but the manager told us, as he would quote, categorically no chance of him signing for Liverpool. But it just seemed like a last minute opportunity to sign him came up, and thankfully enough from our perspective, we have took a chance on him, and at 16 million, it's for a player of his calibre, and we all know he had a few issues off the pitch, but there's no denying when he's on the pitch, he's a fantastic footballer, and at 16 million, it's an absolute bargain.
Hopefully, mate. And Ben, if you don't mind, mate, I'm going to just come to you on Balotelli. You've obviously seen it well in times. Well, when he was at Man City. Liverpool have basically we've tried. We've not replaced Suarez with him because replacing Luis Suarez is nigh on impossible. I know guys will tell you the same. When Ronaldo left Manchester, it's almost impossible to do. But what are your thoughts on Balotelli again? Because you guys all love him there. Is it sad to see, or are you happy for him to be back in the league?
Well, I'm definitely sad to see him at Liverpool. I mean, I don't want to see him in the Premier League because I'm kind of worried that he'll turn into the striker that we couldn't make him, and that's a scary thought. I mean, he showed glimpses of that at Milan with some of the great goals he scored. And if Liverpool and Brendan Rodgers can control his attitude and make sure he matures, it'll be a great signing. But I think it's a relatively big if. But at 60 million, if he turns out to be the player that everyone knows that he can be, it'll be a complete bargain.
I agree with that, mate. I think at that price, you've got to, you've almost got to take the chance. I agree with you there. I think it's definitely worth doing. As we spoke on the last show about Moreno, so we'll leave Moreno, obviously, just time purposes. One I want to talk about is a guy who's not really got much attention due to his being injured, but it's Adam Lallana. Paid a pretty substantial fee. I think it's fair to say, 20, 25, depending on who you read. For me, where's he going to play? Because, and obviously I know it's a squad game and such, but Raheem Sterling has pretty much been tearing up the league from the number 10 position. All the guests on this show are probably testament to that. We've seen them dominate all against most of their teams. Maybe Deck will be the one who says otherwise. But obviously, Lallana probably prefers to play in that number 10 or from coming in from the left. But if Brendan plays this time, and he's obviously got a plan for Lallana, just what do you think it is?
It's a hard one to tell me because we obviously started the season with the 4-3-3 formation, which is the formation which I see Adam Lallana playing in, cutting in from the left like you've just said. But in the game so far this season, when we've looked dangerous is when we've been playing the diamond with Raheem in the 10. So it's a tough one for us non-experts to deliberate about. I'm sure Brendan knows what he's going to do once Adam Lallana comes into the side, because from the very outset of last season finishing and plans being put in place for this transfer window, Adam Lallana was the one he wanted from day one. There had a lot of whispers about, as I told you before, the end of last season, that he was the number one target and he will definitely sign. So Brendan obviously really rates him, and as you say, the price tag that has come with him, there's no way that he's not going to be in the side. Yeah,
I think you're right, and I'm going to get a neutral view on this. So I'm going to let Gaz speak. I don't want to make him wait till an hour into the podcast to get to Man United. So Gaz, as a neutral, what are your thoughts on Lallana as a player? I know you travelled to Brazil to watch England play, and he featured very, very sparsely, to be honest. Everyone thought he was going to play more than he did, but do you think Liverpool have got a decent player there? Obviously, the price is possibly a tad high, but Southampton held all the aces. What do you think of him as a player, guys?
Yeah, I think he's a really promising player for England, and obviously a really promising player for you guys as well. Now, the price, a tad high, but that's the price you pay for English players nowadays. I think he's a really good buy for you guys. It's just, is he in that top bracket now? Because if you guys want to improve on last season, then obviously the only way you can improve is by winning the league. Is a player like that good enough to win you the league?
Well, you tell me, mate. What do you think?
No, I don't. No, honestly, I don't. I think he's a great player, but at this minute, he's not in that caliber yet.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. That, again, I can see why I would say that. It's not he isn't a proven world superstar. Whether Liverpool need that or not, time will tell. But I'll come back onto. Sorry, I won't come onto. That sounds well worse.
Please don't.
Yeah, I'll save that.
Just before we go a little bit further on any sign, I just want to touch on what Gaz has just been saying. Will he win us the league? I think although Luis Suarez had a massive role to play in what we did last season and what we achieved and what we so very nearly achieved, but I think a lot of what Liverpool done last season was built around a team ethic and a work rate from the whole side, not just one player. So I don't think we necessarily needed one player to win us the league. We relied on 12, 13 players to get us through, and in most cases it was 11 players to get us through. So I think that's what Adam Lallana is going to bring to the side, not necessarily a dynamism to win us the league single-handedly, but add to what's already there.
No, it's a good point actually. I do see, like I say, we tried to strengthen in depth rather than try and directly replace Luis Suarez. I'm not going to come on you, don't worry about that. I'm going to come to you and speak to you about a couple of sales. Suarez has been done to death. It's all been talked about. There's no point. I want to talk to you about Daniel Agger if I can, mate. We let him go to Bromby. We took a pretty low fee, and he said himself, we turned all the Premier League clubs down because he didn't want to go anywhere else. Just your thoughts on Agger you don't have to obviously give a eulogy, but his career as a whole, and it was sad to see that he fell so far down the pecking order in quite a short space of time. He went from our number one defender to pretty much number 3 or 4.
When Agger first came in and he first broke into the side, I think a massive percentage of Liverpool fans thought we'd signed the next big thing in central defending, but ironically enough, it was always his defending what seemed to let him down. He was fantastic on the ball and fantastic bringing it out of the defence, but his defensive side of his games all invariably let him down, which was a shame. And it was massive injuries took its toll in the end, and it was quite sad to read when he'd left them saying that he doesn't feel like he's able to keep up the pace of a top league anymore, hence the reason why he turned Premier League sides down and other big European sides. But you can't argue with the service that Daniel Agger gave to Liverpool and the loyalty that he gave to us. So I'm glad we showed him the respect that he deserved and took the hit on the price tag to let him go home and to give him what he wanted.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's fair enough. Sometimes it's nice to see, we respected him, he respected Liverpool, and we wish him all the best. We loaned a few players out. We loaned Jack Robinson, went to QPR, but I think there's a deal that can make. Sorry, Jack Robinson was sold to QPR.
Jack Robinson's been sold, yeah.
Yeah, he's been sold to QPR. We've let Andy Wisdom go on loan to West Brom. Sebastian Coates has gone to Sunderland on loan. Ashley's gone to Stoke on loan. Guys, are you worried that Liverpool are lowering all these players to your lower and mid-table rivals there?
No comment.
I'm just wondering, the battle for 10th's hotting up with Stoke and some. Is that something that concerns you?
Liverpool fans, you're all becoming a little bit like City because you're all shooting the gun a little bit too early. And you can put all this and you can put all your tweets all about United, but it'll just come back to bite you on the arse in May.
I take offence to that.
Sorry, Ben, I don't want to pick on the other man. We've been ganged up on here, but yeah, it'll just come back to bite you in the arse when Falcao's top scorer and United have
Can I just
well above you anyway. Maybe not win the league, but we'll be well above you this year.
I'm just want to express my surprise that the Man United fans actually from Manchester.
I'm gonna call time on the baiting now because we'll be here all. I do apologise, guys.
It didn't say it long before that one got brought up, did it?
We'll leave the fishing rod away now. I do apologise. Obviously, you've got to remember, mate. It's been a while since we've been able to poke fun at you. So I've been saving these jokes for about 15 years. So you've got to get about have a chance to.
It's fine.
Yeah. So I was just on a whole. I'll just finish up. Liverpool's business as a whole, just obviously, is this something that you've been happy with all at all? Obviously, we didn't want to lose Suarez, but it came to be that we pretty much had to. But the strength and depth again now with injuries and stuff, it's really showing that it was something that we desperately needed. We've lost players on international duty to injury, and to me, it looks like we've got a squad that might be capable of doing so, at least finishing top four and challenging in other competitions. Which, to be fair, last year Rodgers deserves, he deserves a medal for getting what he got out of a very limited squad. Oh no, we seem to have lost Ozzy there. So they or might. That was me summing that up anyway. So we'll move on to the third place team in the league, and the team that eventually ends up pretty much costing Liverpool a title, which is very nice of them. Chelsea's business. I think Chelsea have done fabulous business, to be honest. I think they've done really well. If you asked me what Chelsea's weaknesses were last year, was a little bit of creativity and someone to put the ball in net. Well, they went and signed Cesc Fabregas and Diego Costa, one to provide the creativity and one to put the ball in the back of the net. So you've got to be happy with how that's gone down.
Oh, absolutely, Steve. I mean, if you ask me questions, of course, in this whole thing we're doing today for the Bib Theorists is, who essentially won the transfer window, and I generally believe, nearly said Manchester United there, but Chelsea, of course, won the transfer window. I mean, some people look at Manchester United and some of the players they've brought in, but if you look at their contracts, their wages, how much they've paid, and essentially, of course, because Falco's nearly a 2-year deal going in if he does essentially sign on for Manchester United, which I don't think they will unless they get Champions League football. Chelsea spent a lot of money, but we also sold very well, and that's what a lot of people forget. David Luiz, whether he's a £50 million selling player, central defensive mid, only time will show, Steve. But yes, a very happy Chelsea fan from the summer, and going into the season, I was very pleased. Yes.
And not a signing as much depth, but obviously you brought Courtois back from loan, and I think it's fair to say that you've probably got two of the top 3 or 4 Premier League goalies, both at your club. Listen, you're splitting hairs if you're trying to say who's the better keeper, but obviously Mourinho went with Courtois. Do you think it was the right decision to make him the new number 1 and leave Petr Cech pretty much on the bench?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. I think Courtois, he's proved in the last 2 years at Atletico Madrid that he's probably one of the best keepers in Europe. Whether he's one in the world, that's someone else to say. But Cech, he's been an absolute loyal servant to the club, and he's dearly one of my greatest favourite players. He's very iconic with the helmet, although it's not his choice. But Courtois was definitely the right man, and there was a funny little statistic I found the other day, and we've actually essentially, from what we've done with Courtois, sending him on loan to Atletico Madrid, whether his wages were being paid by them or by us, it works around something like 2.8 million. So gaining a keeper of his I'd definitely call him experienced at his age. Champions League finals against possibly one of the best individual teams, such as Real Madrid, with individual players. Courtois has come up against all that, and he's played in some of the biggest stadiums around the world. And gaining a player like him, and he's just coming back to the club, is absolutely fantastic. At the end of the last season, I wouldn't have said that we needed a goalkeeper, not at all. What Chelsea needed, of course, was a top quality striker with strength and all the attributes that needed for a top quality striker. And of course, with Frank going, we needed a centre midfielder, but we didn't just need any centre midfielder. We needed a top quality creative midfielder. We needed a creator in the club, and we were lacking that obviously through stages of last year where Matic came in. So we had the defensive side of Chelsea kind of solidified out. We just needed a creative attacking midfielder, and we got that in Cesc. And obviously with Felipe Luis coming in, he's still got time to develop and put pressure on Cesc Azpilicueta's position there after Ashley Cole left for Roma. Felipe Luis is still one we're yet to see, but we all watched him. Well, certainly I did watch him last year at Atletico Madrid, and he was very impressive. So, if he brings that quality and just a bit more, I feel he'll definitely settle into the side.
Absolutely, I agree. I think that the business Chelsea done is probably the most strengthened team in the league compared to last year, and it's amazing you can do that with just 2 teams. I'm going to ask Dino, just your thoughts, mate, on Fabregas. obviously it's never nice when a player goes to then a rival team, and it seems like the Arsenal fans have kind of took this one quite personally, mate. That he decided to go to Chelsea, which is quite strange because it came out that Arsenal decided that they didn't want him anyway. So, what are your thoughts on Fabregas now playing in the blue half or the blue quarter, whatever you want to call it, of London?
Well, it's a tricky one to talk about. I mean, it was sort of heartbreaking to see him sign for Chelsea, and then even more heartbreaking when I saw him play in the actual colours and play in the beautiful fashion that he does in a Chelsea shirt. I still haven't really come to terms with it. It was obviously a hero to a lot of us Arsenal fans, but scored in the derby a few times. He was just an outstanding player. We did turn him down, and I understand why to an extent. Obviously, when you're going to try and challenge for a title like we are, it's not exactly ideal to be turning down top quality players like Cesc, but I think Ramsey's got potential to reach that level, and Mesut Ozil also does if he finds the form he found at Madrid. So there's reasoning. It is risky to turn down Fabregas. He's obviously got the Premier League experience, etc. But and on a personal level, like it is a bit devastating because Cesc and Mourinho never really had the right relationship. There's pictures of Fabregas having fights on the pitch with Chelsea players. He was just Arsenal through and through. Everything about it, the tweets and everything. It was sort of shocking when he went to Chelsea. So yeah, I sort of haven't come to terms with it. Really quite sad about that. But nonetheless, amazing signing for Chelsea. Just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll get back to you in a minute. Maybe we'll speak about Arsenal next. But Dec, just another one. You've pretty much replaced Samuel Eto'o and Fernando Torres with Loic Remy and Didier Drogba in the backup striker roles. Obviously, Demba Ba left as well. But everyone commented last year, how poor pretty much Chelsea strikers did. So, are you happy that your backup options? First of all, Remy, who for some unknown reason Liverpool decided not to sign in the end. And then you've obviously went and got Drogba back in what looks more. It looks to be obviously he'll get a bit of game time, but it obviously appease the fans as well who regard that man so highly.
Absolutely, and I can sit here and say all these players are one of my favourites, but Didier Drogba, he's scoring fantastic goals, but I don't personally think he's there for the game time. Although he will prove effective, especially in the next 2 weeks. Steve, Chelsea are playing 4 games in 11 days. Unlike other teams such as United and that, they get rests. We're a very competitive side. We play in a lot of tournaments and a lot of cup competitions. So 4 games in 11 days, and this is where kind of Remy and Drogba will really kind of start to find their path into the team. Drogba obviously will be there, kind of. I wouldn't say commanding. I wouldn't call him that at all. But I wouldn't be surprised if he was coming onto the pitch as a captain. That's how the players and the fans kind of look at him. We love him. Loic Remy, I don't. Some people, and it absolutely baffles me how some people kind of say Loic Remy was a panic buy. He was everything but that. Arsenal very much were very close to Loic Remy, but once again, Arsenal just couldn't financially agree anything, and it lets the board at Arsenal have let their team down again. So we've capitalised on that and signed another fantastic player. With Loic Remy, though, he's a very dynamic player. He definitely, I wouldn't put him in the same category as Costa. I know Costa probably feels he is the number one man. And too right so, with his record, what was it, 4 goals in 3 games so far in the season. And, for the first time ever since Didier Drogba, the fans have loved a striker. And I believe that is a fundamental catalyst for a striker to do well at any club. The club, the striker, sometimes their morals are a bit wrong. They want to be the star. They want to be on every back page of the newspapers for obviously their footballing reasons. And, you can just look at this happening. Diego Costa wants to be loved. The Chelsea fans love him. With Loic Remy, I do think it will take time for him to settle in. But, as a Chelsea fan sitting, Costa may not be playing against Swansea this weekend. And Swansea are a very decent side and it'll be a big game. And then just to know that maybe you've got a Remy coming in and not maybe a Fernando Torres where you're looking at your midfield to be scoring on the weekend. It is quite nice to, yes.
And Oz is doing this again. Loic Remy, Craig, obviously something happened, whether failed medical was banded about Liverpool, pulled out. It's strange to see that Liverpool pulled out that deal and then to see him go to Chelsea. What were your thoughts on that?
First of all, sorry about that. My phone's got a footballer's ego and decided it was going to overheat and not work anymore. But the Lower Cremy one, mate, it was a surprise because I was made up to see that we were in for him and that things are progressing really well. And obviously we flew him out to the States for what we thought was going to be a medical and to sign. But things went really quiet on it and we didn't hear for a week or so what was happening. And then all the talk was he had this failed medical and some reports are suggesting it was something to do with his knee and some were suggesting that he's got a hole in his heart and whatever. But it's a strange one, mate. It almost seems like maybe Liverpool's insurers wouldn't take a gamble on whatever it was, and Chelsea have decided to take the gamble. I mean, personally, I'd have liked us to have took the gamble on it because, I mean, what are the chances of it going drastically wrong? But I don't think we'll ever 100% know because Harry, as he does, loves to tell everyone what's going on, and he said there's no way he could have failed the medical and it was something else. But as I said, I don't think we'll ever 100% know what went wrong with the deal for Liverpool.
Yeah, I think you're right there, mate. I know Redknapp will say a lot of things, but usually through a car window, but not all of them are always true. And before we move on from Chelsea, I just want your thoughts on. I've got the players out list here, and it's as long as you know as my arm, basically. It always seems to be a player's name, a team name, and then it says loan afterwards. And I think is it 23 players you got out on loan?
26.
26. So it's odd, isn't it, mate, to basically stockpile players? What are your thoughts on that? And to me, it just seems a bit not cheating, but it's almost as if you're stunting the growth of some players. Would you not think?
Yes, no, Steve. It's a good talking point, and it's been it's always a talking point when a Chelsea fan like myself's on a podcast. What is Chelsea's loan system? And I mean, this year has probably been one of the most effective loan systems we've had for the last maybe 7-8 years. And everyone knows, sitting on this podcast and listening now, Chelsea's loan system is very, very poor, and it has been for the last 7 or 8 years. But since Mourinho's come in, the last, especially year and a half, there has been developments going on in the youth around the club. I mean, 26 players went out on loan this year, and it endorsed 9 million back into the club. So that's excluding Fernando Torres. I mean, I won't even explain his contract; it's so complicated. But excluding Fernando Torres, all the other players that are out on loan, we actually endorsed 9 million back into the club through clubs playing wages. We sent 4 internationals on loan, and it just shows. The first one, the top 2 coming off my head is Attu to Everton, and of course Victor Moses to Stoke. It is sad to see young players go. Of course, I mean the only one that's really stuck out, that really made an impact in the first team, was probably Ryan Bertrand. If you want to go back to the 90s, which we won't, but in the last 10 years, Ryan Bertrand was probably the only one that really broke through. Of course, he, making an appearance in the Champions League final. But yeah, no, I do agree with you, Steve. The Chelsea loan system idea has been poor, but there's been new implemented rules. Just off the top of my head, I think it's, if a club gets more than 2 or 3 players, all 3 of them have to, if they're not injured, of course, being part of a first team. Like, they won't be left at home, they won't be playing for the reserves of any team. They're guaranteed first team football, and it's in their contract. So when clubs sign these, especially clubs in such like Belgium, and I'm not going to attempt to say the name of some of them, but they sign the players on loan with an idea of trying to play first team football with them. So and that's only been implemented in the club in the last year. So it's slowly but calmly getting better.
Cheers, man, and thanks for that, mate. We'll move on now to our 4th club, and well, if you're speaking of clubs and 4th position, you'd invariably end up at Arsenal. So, Dino, I'll come to you. Arsenal's business. Sanchez obviously is the marquee signing, for lack of a better word. Callum Chambers, you got Debussy, Espina. I think he's there for as a backup. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then Danny Welbeck. In terms of outs, Thomas from Ireland's probably the biggest one that will stick out to going to Barcelona. Obviously, we spoke about Sanya before. Just on the whole, do you know what are your thoughts about Arsenal's window? There's still talk that maybe they didn't cover all the bases, but they've definitely signed some quality players.
Yeah, considering some of our transfer windows of old, I think it's been quite an effective one. I mean, we've gone through transfer windows absolutely desperate for a position, centre back a few years ago, striker, etc., and we haven't got them. This window, with a lot of outs, with a few outs and a few positions needing replacement, we needed some new names, and we got some new names, but. Although all the signings that we did make, I'm very happy with. I don't think there were enough players of that caliber. I mean, a couple of positions that, especially holding midfielder, because although I really rate Mikel Arteta, I admire him as a footballer. He's a great leader, really, really good player, positionally outstanding, but he just doesn't have the legs anymore. He can't keep up with the big games. So he'll play well for 30 out of 38 games a season. That's not good enough if you're on a challenge for the title, and that's why I would have liked to have seen someone like William Carvalho come in. The striker, on the other hand, I guess Welbeck and Sanchez, as well as the return of Walcott and Joel Campbell, will prove to be enough on that front. Although I'd rather have seen the likes of someone in the sort of, I don't know, someone as good as Falcao or Cavani. Although I might be deluded and maybe we can't get those sort of names, but. Yeah, hey ho, it's Arsenal. We're poor in the transfer market, and it's better than usual, I guess.
Yeah, you can walk before you can crawl. But if we look into the Sanchez deal first, mate, again, he's a very good player, top quality player, and obviously there was talk that Liverpool want him as well, and Arsenal kind of won the battle for his signature. But I'm not sure. Can Wenger, is he going to play him as a number 9 because he's done it a couple of times for yourselves, and he doesn't look comfortable. He looks more like someone who's going to want to attack from wide, another attacking midfielder or another number 10, and that's a position in where you've probably got 6 or 7 top class options. So that spending 30 million on Sanchez, like you say, when there's the likes of Falcao and Cavani and what have you out there, is it that would that money have been better spent elsewhere, or are you happy with that signing on that particular player?
Versatility is, as you guys know, obviously a massive thing when you're fighting on all sorts of fronts like Champions League, in the cups, etc. So I think it's useful in the fact that he can play up front if you need him to. He can play on both wings. If needed, he can play behind the striker, but obviously we're not going to need him there with the names we've got there. But I think he'll be playing in the left wing with the return of Walcott on the right. Mesut Ozil can't obviously be taken out of the team as he's sort of, I don't know, too big a name. I guess it's a hard one with Ozil. And then up front, I think Danny Welbeck's been brought in to play the 9 role. But throughout the season, when injuries start to come in, etc., I think we'll see a bit of Sanchez up front, maybe even on the right wing. So I think it's useful. Although that 30 million or so that we spent on him, with Welbeck coming in now, similar positionally, it could have been better spent on someone like William Carvalho, who I mentioned, or a Luis Gustavo, or a holding midfielder of that caliber.
Yeah, and guys, I'm going to come to you if you don't mind, mate. There's one player who's who you can associate with both Arsenal and Man United. What are your thoughts on Benik Afobe plays for MK Dons? Guys, he's a good player, isn't he?
He's good, isn't he? He looked really good the other night.
Yeah, he's alright, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not quite at Falcao's level, but he's probably better than any of the Arsenal strikers. So.
That's all.
Yeah.
No, really, guys. Danny Welbeck obviously has gone to Arsenal. I'll get your thoughts before I get Dino's. It's a strange. Obviously, we're going to come on to the masses of transfers that United did, and fair play to some world class players in there, but to sell a young English player for a relatively small fee, when you look at the other fees going round in this window, what are your thoughts on the manager letting Welbeck go? Again, he might not be everyone's cup of tea, but surely 16 million's are quite a small fee, especially when you sell them to a potential rival for that 4th place, if that's what United possibly may be aiming for this season.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely agree. Danny Welbeck's a player that I and a lot of other Manchester United fans really rate. Just look at some of the games that he's played in, that he started in. I remember we dropped Rooney once to play Danny Welbeck. He's against Real Madrid. He's such not only a versatile player, But if you're coming against a team who has a midfielder who will sit back and ping balls across, then Danny Welbeck will just sit on him and he'll just shut him up all game. He is such a great player, and for us to lose him is already very frustrating. But for him to be allowed to go to Arsenal the mind boggles. A local lad, a young English lad, a fan favourite. I think it's crazy that we've let him go, and I think we could really, really regret it. However, Van Gaal has come out and he has said, you know, he was our 5th choice striker. So you can take into account that he's English and he's homegrown and he's a local lad and all that. But if you're not good enough, if your manager don't think you're good enough, then you're not good enough and you got to go.
Yeah, it's fair enough. And do you know your thoughts on Welbeck? Is he the man who's, you know, Arsenal been searching for this striker? I personally rate Giroud, but I know Arsenal fans are a bit hot, you know, think he's hot and cold. But is Danny Welbeck the man to fire Arsenal from 4th to potentially the heights of 3rd?
Well, the heights of 3rd, that's not something you'd be saying if you're an Arsenal fan 10 years ago, but I guess we're in that stage now, and I think he's that sort of player. I'm just going to say 2 words just to piss off Gaz quickly. That guy. I know I said it off air, and I don't think he was very happy about that, but yeah, had to get that in.
Stop it!
I think he'll do a good job up front for us. I'm also a fan of Giroud, even though I know he's extremely frustrating. Like, extremely frustrating. He's a striker with great all-round play, brings players into the game absolutely brilliantly, among the best in the country at that. But then it's in the big games when Olivier just sort of bottles it in front of goal, like Man City away. I know we got smashed 6-3, but at one point I think we're losing by 1 or 2 goals, and he had a good chance, missed it. They go and score, changes the pattern of the game, and it happened on a few occasions. So you can't afford to have a striker. And I think Danny will be a bit more clinical, hopefully anyway, in front of goal. Whether he'll fire us up to 3rd. Well, potentially, yeah. I think we'll finish 3rd this season, although I've got obviously bias, but we'll see.
No, it wouldn't be totally out of the question. I just want to ask you about your defence, Dean, before we move on to Gaza and Man United. Basically, you've pretty much let Vermaelen go and brought in Chambers. You've let Sanya's gone, Debussy's come in, Jenkinson's gone out to West Ham on loan. So last year Arsenal let a ton of goals in, especially, you know, they had 5 in Anfield. They got battered at Chelsea, battered at City. Are those moves, and you mentioned before, you know, the lack of a holding midfielder, have Arsenal addressed those with these signings? Because to me it looks like it's kind of much of a muchness, really.
I think that's a little harsh saying we've leaked goals, because I think our defensive record was actually pretty good. It's just the big games, and I think
Dean, you got battered, mate. Like you got battered.
Those games we were terrible. I'll give you that. But
that's what I'm talking about. In those big games, have you improved your defence enough to not let 5 in Anfield or 6 in at City or whatever you let in at Chelsea with a 6 again with a dodgy sending off? I just wonder if I thought this might have been the time for Arsenal to really knuckle down and go massive on a centre half, a top class centre back maybe, and they didn't seem to do it.
I'm not sure, you know. I can see where you're coming from in a way. I mean, the controversial Mertesacker is someone I'm a massive fan of, and I think him and Koscielny have a partnership that sort of, despite Callum Chambers coming in, who I've been absolutely monumentally impressed by, been down to the Emirates a few times, seen him positionally astute. He's great in the tackle, really, really good in the ball. Absolutely, he's just, it sort of boggles the mind that he's just 19 years of age. But that partnership there is a partnership that for me is sort of unbreakable, because in the big games, Vermaelen played half against City when they smashed, I think, 4 in one half, and then I think, you know, it's a hard one. I think it's also down to the holding midfielder, as you said. Arteta, he's not changed, unfortunately, and Ramsey and Wilshere can't play together, and it's still going to be Arteta in there, and Flamini's an idiot, so I don't know if that's going to help, but I don't think it will be getting smashed away anymore. But I don't know. I think our starting defence is good enough to hold out to an extent. It's just the depth that we're struggling a little bit in. We've only got 3 centre halves, 1 right back. We've got another one, Bellerin, but he's young and unproven. And then we've got two good left backs, I guess. But yeah, we'll see how that one goes. It's a tricky question.
Yeah, cheers, Dino, mate. And we'll move on to Gaz. I know you've waited patiently, Gaz, for us to get down to 7th, so we'll let you speak a bit now. I'll talk about the masses of strikers in a minute, but before we do, I just want to talk about the defenders that you let go. Evra went, Ferdinand went, Vidic went. You know, three of your, you know, a stalwart back four, what a title-winning back four for, you know, many years. European Cup finalists, occasions on, you know, numerous occasions. You've replaced them with Rojo, who's obviously looks like the paperwork's all gone through. Luke Shaw, who looks like he likes a cake or two. And possibly Daley Blind, or it depends. There's talk that he might play in centre midfield. For all the work that you've done up front, which we're going to get to, the defence still looks a little bit short, mate. Or what are your thoughts on that?
The defence is definitely looking short. I won't dispute that. But when you were talking about them players who went there, I think the main problem with the players that left, Ferdinand, Vidic and Evra, is all of them on the pitch are leaders. So if you don't even take into account their ability, because I think last season, I think all three of them players were really poor. Evra was showing the telltale signs that he's on his way out. Vidic and Ferdinand has been showing them signs for 2, maybe even 3 seasons now that he's lost 2 yards of pace. So I'm not too fussed that we've lost them in terms of their ability, but it's upsetting that we've lost so many leaders on the pitch. In terms of players that we've brought in, defenders, like you say, Rojo, Shaw, Blind, you know, Luke Shaw, he's going to get straight in that first team and hopefully he can stay fit. If he was fit when he initially signed. Rojo, I think, is a great player for us. It's about time we got a lunatic at the back, so it's really good to have Rojo in there, and he's versatile. And Daley Blind, I think that he'll be playing in centre midfield more, to be honest. So we are looking very light at the back, but that won't really matter when we're winning every game 7-6.
Yeah, we kind of got into that situation at the end of last season ourselves. Obviously, I'm going to get on to strikers second. I just want to get your thoughts on Ander Herrera, mate. It's one that's kind of snuck under the radar. There was a farce where you were, probably talking to the wrong agents and blah, 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 blah last season. Again, midfield maybe is an issue. Obviously, I like Fletcher, but he's had his medical issues and what have you. Carrick, again, a good player. He's injured at the moment. Fellaini seems to me like a flop and a panic buy by David Moyes last season. So, are we expecting to see a lot of Herrera? And obviously you've watched him through the pre-season. I only seen him in one game against ourselves. But what do you make of him so far? And is he adding that little bit of mongrel, like you say, into your midfield?
Sorry, but Fellaini, 30 million a minute before deadline day finishes. Never a panic buy that. Yeah, but Ander Herrera, yeah, he's a brilliant player. I think he offers a lot in that midfield. He's just a really good creative player, and it's just something that we didn't have last season. I mean, at times last season we were playing with Van Persie, Rooney, Mata, Januzaj, all these great players. Even Valencia can do something, and then we had no one to actually give them the ball from midfield. So it's really good to have a player like Ander Herrera in. He'll make a few moves in the middle, and he'll hopefully create a bit more space for our, quite frankly, world-class strikers.
Absolutely, and we'll move on to some of the world-class attackers now. Then, 57 point. It was a 59.7 banded about for Di Maria.
Yeah.
He's a quality. Listen, there's no doubt about it. He's a top quality player. You must be absolutely ecstatic to look forward to seeing more of him.
Yeah, Di Maria, at the end of the day, is one of the best players in the world. I can't see him playing in a central role for us like he did do last year a few times for Real Madrid. It's where he got man of the match in the Champions League final, you'll remember. I think that he will be playing on the wings for us, unless Van Gaal is going to stick with this 5 at the back system. But yeah, Di Maria, I think he's just a world class player, and there's nothing more you can say. He's, for me, in the top 10 players in the world. Absolutely,
and like I say, sometimes you might be able to, you might have to shoehorn him in, but I'm sure Van Gaal's got a plan. Whether it sticks with this 5, it would be odd to stick with a 5 when you've got no centre halves, tons of strikers. He's probably best finding a system that gets them. Let as few centre halves and as many strikers on the pitch as possible. Would you not think?
Yeah, definitely. For me, if it was up to me, I'd play just a 0-0-9 for a 0-0-10 formation. But yeah, it's a real issue, and it's one that I'm a bit funny with, really, because when he said that this was going to be his formation, I thought, right, let's give it a few months, let's give it a chance. But now looking at it, and you're actually looking at our squad, like you say, it really doesn't make much sense at all when we've got no centre halves. Or no real class at centre half, because if we were to play with just two centre backs, then you've got really decent players to fill in there. I think Jones, I think he's a great centre back. I think Rojo is going to be a great centre back. Blin can play there. It's a decent defence if we play with four at the back, but let's just hope he does it for United's sake. For me.
Yeah, for your sake. I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy seeing that back Johnny Evans and is it back at playing, but I digress. Falcao, let's go move on to Falcao. It came from pretty much nowhere. There was talk he was banded about. It looked like he was going to Real Madrid. That there was talk of City, there was talk of Arsenal, Liverpool, but he's ended up at United on loan. It seems like an astronomical amount of money, and I don't know what the ins and outs are. I just know that someone somewhere has gotten very rich, probably his agent, but. What are you expecting from Falcao? Obviously, he's come back from the injury. His knee, he obviously had the issues with the knee, but when he's fit, he's obviously a top quality player. I just wonder, can him, Rooney, Van Persie, are you expecting all three to be on the pitch at the same time? And also, just from on an individual point of view, what are you expecting from the player himself?
Well, Falcao, I think he possesses every single ability that a top class striker needs. He's strong, he's skillful, and he scores goals, which is the main thing. As for whether Rooney, Van Persie and Falcao will all play at the same time, I very much doubt that. For me, though, as soon as we sign Falcao, that screams out to me that Rooney is going to be dropped to a central midfield role, which I've been raving about for ages. I think that's got to be the next step of his career. And if you're putting Rooney in centre midfield, then that gives you permission to play Di Maria and even Herrera with him. It means we're not too lightweight in the middle. I think he's the only player we've got in the squad who can play box to box as a box to box midfielder, and I'd love to see Rooney in midfield. As for Van Persie, there were rumours knocking about of him having to have an operation on his leg, but they've all been thrown out now. So I guess it'll just be a good competition for him, because last season it seemed like he was dragging his feet a little bit. Even a few games this season, he didn't even seem to be putting in any effort. I'm not sure whether he's fully fit or not, but hopefully it's the kick up the backside that he needs.
And before I speak, I'm going to do a little round of all of this, but just I know it's a strange place to end, but Javi Hernandez, you've let him gone on loan to Madrid now, and to me, he always looked like a player who could take that leap and become a really, really top class centre forward, a first team player, but it never quite happened for him at United. Is that somewhat of a disappointment, or basically was you happy with what you got from the young little fella?
Oh, it's always a disappointment when a player doesn't quite live up to his potential. But I think Hernandez did have some brilliant performances for us. He had some really good seasons at United. But last season it was just obvious with him. And for me, the MK Dons result really summed up all of his problems, what he's had this past season. One of his key skills was meant to be his movement, and it's just completely gone. He just can't actually make the runs anymore. It's really bizarre to watch. And then last season there was a few times where he was all these cryptic messages on Instagram. I mean, one of them was him with a microphone, and just below it was like, the truth will be spoken very soon. And I was just like, I can't be bothered with stuff like that, because imagine what he's saying to the players in training and stuff behind the manager's back. And players like that, just as soon as it gets like that, get rid of them. That's what Ferguson would have done. And I'm glad he's gone, really. And I don't like saying that, but I'm glad he's gone. I don't think he offered us anything anymore.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And cheers for that, guys. I'll come back to you in a sec. But Ben, thank you for patiently there, mate. I'm going to come to you. I'm going to go along the line, basically. First last season, obviously the aim now, obviously it's which you couldn't do last time. Have a bit more impact on the Champions League. Again, you've been handled a tough group. What's your expectations for City in terms of the league and the Champions League?
Right. That one. I've been tipping Chelsea for the league for about 2 months now, because you don't beat a team to the league who've signed Cesc Fabregas and Diego Costa. And I don't think we'll win the Champions League. I mean, I'm sure we won't, because Real Madrid have, they're a lot better than us. Bayern Munich, maybe Barcelona. But I think the Champions League is the next big target for all the board and all the playing staff and coaching staff. That's the next big thing. We've had the league, we've had the FA Cup, we've had the League Cup and the Community Shield, which were the 2 big ones. And now we want to make it 5 with the Champions League, and we won't be able to do that this season because of the financial fair play restrictions that we've had. But I think this season it'll be about trying to build up the reputation in Europe with that tough group, which I'm a bit nervous about. But I don't know, maybe a cup victory at the FA Cup or the League Cup again. Maybe that'd be it, but not the league or the Champions League this season. No chance.
Spoken like a true Manchester City fan, always pessimistic. Ozzy, I'll come on to you. We're fighting on 4 fronts again, which is great to see. What's your expectations? What's your targets? Obviously, League, Champions League, Cups, etc.
It's a tough one, Steve, because we all know what happened last season, and I hate to use the word expectation, because to expect them to go on and emulate what we done last season would be a massive ask. So I think I'd be happy if we just consolidated our place in the top 4, even be it 4th. I think that's massively important, especially with the money we've invested in this transfer window to sustain a top 4 place is what's vital for us this season. And the last couple of years we've been pretty poor in the cups, especially since Brendan Rodgers come in. So it'd be fantastic to see us go on a cup run, ideally in the Champions League, maybe quarterfinals in the Champions League. Maybe it might be a bit too much to ask. I don't think so. So hopefully a top 4 finish, a good run in the Champions League, and maybe win one of the 2 domestic cups.
Yes, yeah, we'd all probably take that. You're going to come 4th, but so we parked that one. So, do you agree with that? And also Arsenal Champions League. It's been a while. Obviously, you had that one final quite a long time ago, but it seems like Arsenal seem to always get last 16 Bayern Munich knocked out. Has anything changed in your mind that makes you think that Arsenal can have a go at this league and take over especially Chelsea and City, who look strong, and also have a real go at Europe, because it's about time that you keep qualifying, and one final in all that time probably isn't really good enough, is it?
All right, I think you've got to be fair here and look at the draws we've had. Like not even just the Barcelona year after year / Bayern Munich. It's the groups we've been given year after year. I mean, last year it was bloody ridiculous. We got Napoli and Dortmund. I mean, one of the 2 okay, but both of them, and we bottled top of the group like you bottled top of the league last season on the last day. Well, I know yours wasn't on the last day, but yeah. And I apologise for that, by the way. I know a lot of Liverpool fans will be listening, but yeah. And
Nice one, Dino.
and then so then we inevitably get drawn against some super heavyweight Champions League team who annihilate us after we put up a good fight, and then we go with our heads held high. But ultimately we don't get further in the Champions League, which is a problem. But I can't see why we can't do a bit better this season. I think we can top the group. Dortmund are the only real threat. I mean, Galatasaray and Anderlecht, 2 decent sides, but I think we can top the group. And on the league, I think Chelsea are going to run away with it this year by a little stretch, and then City and us will be fighting for the first, second and third places. But I can't call it yet, so I'm not going to be confident. But I would like to win a domestic competition, because last season, that day in May in the FA Cup was just a special day that I'll remember for the rest of my life. So I'd like to relive something like that. So yeah, I'm hopeful.
Yeah, mate, it isn't every day that you can beat Wigan and Hull. Dec, I'm gonna come to you, mate. The guys have pretty much said that your team are nailed on for the league. I think that Chelsea are also the favourites now. I imagine that's your mood as well. But I imagine having going pretty close in the Champions League again last year with no strikers, you must be confident that Chelsea can have a really memorable Man United 1999 type season.
Mm. Yeah, no, absolutely, Steve. The only difference, of course, our year will be better than 1999. But yeah, no, definitely, it's we as a club, we're definitely top two. I mean, everyone's talking about top four football. Definitely top two for me. The other teams being, of course, Manchester City or Liverpool, going for that second spot. And if I was going to go down to third, it would have to possibly be either City or Liverpool, and then fourth. I'm going to go Manchester United if they can pull themselves together tactically as well as kind of on the pitch. But Champions League, yeah, it's a very exciting prospect this year. It's last year was Chelsea have a tendency to sometimes maybe scrape through kind of games. Of course, when Di Matteo won us the historical year, it was very kind of unexpected, and it wasn't really the Chelsea dream because it wasn't really how we wanted to win it. But nonetheless, our names on the.
I think we might have lost Deck there. Deck, can you hear us?
It's semi-final, final, but it's easier said than done, and you'll all agree with me. It's a lot easier said than done, but definitely, I don't think FA Cup and Carling Cup are in the question. Everyone knows Mourinho looks at them kind of clubs as kind of very minuscule. I know Dino would disagree with Arsenal winning last year, but FA Cup's not really our standard. We look at kind of higher level of football, where in the Champions League and the big games on the Sundays, with the top teams. So yeah, I'm going to go with a top two finish. I'm not going to sit here and say Chelsea win the league because I still think it's too early for that. We always start well. Everyone knows we start well. It's around Christmas where we'll kind of, if we do slip, that's where we usually do. But Champions League, I would like to say semi-final, final, but it's easier said than done. It's all about the draw. I'd like to just definitely get past the quarterfinals. Anything for plus then would be the plus. But when you got a manager like Jose Mourinho, you don't really know what to expect week in, week out. So it's an exciting prospect this year.
Absolutely, mate, and I hope it goes well for to an extent, but not too well.
Yeah.
Finally, guys, I'll come to you. Obviously, no Champions League. Obviously, the League Cup's gone, so it's all focus. Is it pretty much everyone's talking about the league? I think that that's a tad unrealistic at this stage. Is it all about top four or bust? Because if you don't come top four, I haven't spent that much money, mate. It would be seen as a massive gamble in terms of all that money spent and little or no reward for it. Guys?
Yeah, sorry about that. Well, people are saying about how much money we spend. Obviously, it would be extremely disappointing not to get top four having spent that much. But I don't really care how much money we spend. One, because it's not my money, and two, because that's how much we made on Park Ji-sung action figures in 2007. So I couldn't really care about spending if we spent bloody 500 million. But yeah, the target is top four. Obviously, I mean, you see how well it did for you guys last season when you weren't in the Champions League. I'm not taking the mick here, but when you weren't in the Champions League and you could focus on the league, and you saw just how well your players played with a squad that, in my opinion, that squad wasn't good enough to do what it did, but unbelievably it did. So hopefully we can do it this season with what is, in my opinion, a squad that is just good enough to get top four.
Yeah, mate. Again, it'll be interesting to see, and then obviously build from there. Well, we're a little bit over time, guys. So I'm going to end it there. Thanks to Ben, Craig, Dino, Deck, and Gaz for your time. I hope you listeners, I hope you've enjoyed listening to that. Something a little bit different that we've not done before. We've obviously talked through a lot of we've sorted out all the transfers. You've got opinions of different fans, which we don't always get on the show. So thanks for your time, guys, and thanks for listening. And that was TBT Talks.